Hi, my name is Nathan Mins, and today we're going to go over how to edit with Elementor. So when we go to our site right here, we see our header and our footer right here. These are global elements. They are across the entire site. But when I want to edit this page, all I have to do is click this button, Edit with Elementor. And then when this pops up, we're going to see two distinct sections. We're going to see a left sidebar, and then we're going to see a content area. In this left sidebar, these are what we call elements. These are everything that we can add into our site. So if we want to add an image, that's right here. A video is right here. And we have a lot of elements that we can use. In this section, we have two more parts. We have our plus, which will give us whatever style we want. So if we want one column, we just click this and one column will pop up. If we want two columns, we do the same but with two columns. This other button is for when we want a template. So when we click on this, these are things that Elementor has already made or you have saved yourself. So here are all of the pages that we can add in. Here are all of the blocks that Elementor has made that are much more versatile than the rest of the site. You can see my header and footer are already added in, and these are just templates. I added in this one. Then we have my templates, which for me right now on this blank website is just my header and footer, but it can extend to be quite long. To insert a template, if I want to be a beauty salon, all I have to do is hover on this. You do need Elementor Pro for this, and click Insert. It says, do you want to import document settings? Almost always when you're importing a full page template like this, we're going to want to click yes. So we click yes right there, and then this will load up and it'll be across this entire page. Now we see that it already loaded. If we want to see what this would actually look like on a live site, there's two ways to do that. The harder way is right here to click this little icon, this preview button, or what I always do is we can click this arrow, and right here we can see a preview of the site. Now, when we want to edit, let's say a heading like this, all we have to do is look at this left sidebar again. We can see it changed just a little bit, and we can see that we have our three sections again. We have content right here with our title. So if we want to add something else, we can say Nathan is awesome right there. If we want to add a link to that text, we can put it in right here. And then these other things don't matter as much. We can center and different align these kinds of things. But these are going to be our most important too in this section. Next, we have style. We can choose the color we want, any color we want, any color. And we can do the same with typography. Pretty much choose any font you'd like. You can also insert your own font if you'd prefer. I generally like to maintain consistency across my entire brand. So what I always do is I look at this global field, and we can see that I haven't touched these yet, but the primary header is set right here. Now I can make multiple primary headers that have this color, and then when I want to edit any of them together, I can do that in one place. I don't have to do that across individually across each title. Similarly with typography, we can see I already set a primary header. We also have secondary header, text, and our accent is like linked text or buttons. So I can do that. In this one, it already worked better the way it was, but there's a good demonstration on what it is. Now I'm going to go over these bottom left icons, these things that I've sort of touched on but haven't gone too in depth in. We've already talked about this preview button right here. If we hit preview, it'll open in a new page, and show us what this will look like when we publish it live. I already said I don't really use that button very much. Next, there's a lot of web development now, or web viewing is on mobile devices, so we need to develop for mobile. This next icon, responsive mode, will show us what it looks like on a desktop, which is what you're viewing right now. Then we have a tablet, so it'll adjust to a tablet. Most of the styles that you change will now only change on tablet. You can see that based on if there's this icon here. So we can make this centered or right aligned only on tablet. But as we can see here, there's no icon. So if we change this color here, it will change on every device. So we can see it's still left aligned, but it's red because it'll be red on every device. Next, we have mobile. A lot of traffic is coming from mobile these days. So we can do the same thing here. Next is one of the things that the clients ask me about the most. What happens if I do something and then I realize that I did it totally wrong? Well, you can go to this history tab, and now we can see everything that we have edited the entire time we've been doing this. So these are pretty poorly named, but if we want to change these, all we have to do is go back. We can see we're editing this text style again. It's red, now it's black. So just click through this until you find exactly what you were looking for, and then you'll be off to the races. Our next tab is the navigator. This is generally not useful, but it does show us the basic structure of Elementor. As I mentioned before, we have a section right here, and then right now there's nothing within this column. So it's just the column and it's empty. We have one column. In this section at the top, we'll see there's two columns. Both of them are empty. If we want to add an element in, we can add this header right here, and you'll see a header right here. The only thing this navigator does is when we look at this, we can say, I want to select this spacer, and you can see in blue highlighted, I just selected the spacer. I want the column, so with this black dotted line, you can see that I selected that. So that's all this does. It really only is helpful if something is on top of each other and you don't really know how to click it. But in general, not incredibly useful. Next and lastly, we have our settings icon. There often isn't a lot happening in this one, but we have a featured image. When you, let's say, send a text to someone with this link and you have a little image that pops up, that's where they get this featured image. We have the status of the page. Is it a draft? Right now I have this page published. And then what is it called? You can see right up here it says home. That's because I wrote home right here. You can change a couple other things like the background styling of this entire page. If we change this, we can see that the whole background will change, or we can make it a gradient like this. And advanced, again, there's not a lot going on here. The one thing I will point out is that in this header, we already talked about the text color and typography. We won't need text shadow that much. If we do, usually this is sufficient, but if not, we can always adjust this. Blend mode is sort of like Photoshop tools. We generally won't use this either. I have never used that in the last 5 years. In the advanced tab, we can add our top section, so 50 pixels or 500 pixels, or we can add padding, which is inside this element of right 50 or bottom 50, like that. So the margin is on top of the element and padding is within. The only other thing I'll point out here is this responsive tab. So let's say I don't want this to pop up at all, just on mobile. Then all I have to do is click hide on mobile. And when we go to our mobile viewing, we'll see that it's a little grayed out. You see, you can't really see it anymore. Sometimes though, we want to just save something until a big launch. So we want to hide everything. So we just click all of these, and then the element is hidden. Whenever we go in the back end, we will be able to see that it's there, but no one else will be able to see. No user will be able to see that. When you're done, as always, and throughout when you're building, you can either save this as a draft, save it as a template, which is generally uncommon, or as Elementor clearly wants you to do with the design, just click update. Now we're going to talk a little bit about global styling. So just to demonstrate, let's add this header here. Let's add a text editor, and then let's add a button as well. Now I want two of these so we can really demonstrate it. So I will do this and two-finger click on trackpad or right-click on a mouse and hit duplicate. Now we can see there's two of them. When we go to the header, there's the obvious way of editing this content. We can go over to style. We can change this to any color we want. And there we go. If we want to adjust this heading as well, all we have to do is copy this, go over here, and paste this. And it's the same. This system works. This is how Elementor was originally built, and it works fine. It could work a little bit better. So returning to these global styles, clicking this globe icon, we can change both of these at the same time. So if we go to this left hamburger menu, we have these options. The one we want right now is site settings. And then when this loads, we'll see a lot more options. The first two are the most important by far. We have primary, secondary, text, and accent. If we change the primary, we can see that both of those change at the same time. So if we leave that right there, and we can change this accent color to whatever we want, and this is what the buttons are natively linked to as well, or the text. The text is here as well, but let's keep that around here. So if we want to go and change even the typography, we can do that as well. So let's say we want this font to be rock salt. Right there, it changes everything to this font, rock salt. If we want to change an accent, we can do the same thing there. We can even change the default sizes, weights, various other styling things as well. Another one that I'll draw your attention to is this buttons thing. So we can change buttons across the entire site. So if we want to change this right here and every button, we can make this our accent, and then on hover, let's make it this red, but maybe just a tad bit darker. So when we hover over it, it'll just be a little bit darker. We can also change the border radius across everything. Sometimes this doesn't update in real time, as we can see. And then we can also change the internal padding. So if we want to make this 20 and then maybe this 40, we'd have to increase this a little bit, but here we go. Oh, and the border radius, we were just in hover mode. So if we change that as well, we can see it is, we can change the border radius right there. It's really important to use these global styles. They make your design consistent across the entire site. And when the client or you decide that you want to change everything or every color on the site or the typography, you only have to do that in one place. So there is one part of this that we have been ignoring the whole time, and that is this header and footer. And how do we adjust this? It's clear that we can't adjust it right here. So we can't adjust it there. How can we do it? There are a couple ways, but to get you set up with the header and footer, I'll show you the best practices way. So when we go to our site, we are going to click right here. This should be your company name. And then we will see the back end of WordPress. I'll go over this in another video, but when we go down on this page, we'll see templates right here on this left sidebar, and then we will go down to Theme Builder. Generally, WordPress is built with themes, and that takes a lot of the styling for the site. But in Elementor, you can really build that yourself. So you don't need to rely on an external system and hoping that that works. You can build everything yourself. So you can see here, I added this header and this footer. So when we look at this, we can view our header. We can even export it to another site. But we're going to click Edit with Elementor, and that will pop up this header right here. I didn't adjust this header at all. All I did is insert it using this. But if we want to adjust something, again, that is all in this Content, Style, and Advanced tabs. So we can always make this red or make it any color that we'd like. But that's how you get to this header. And then we also have the footer right there. Another option to get here is we can hover over Edit with Elementor, and then we can click this or click this. It's the same thing. Or when we're actually editing the page, if we hover over it, we can see Edit with Edit Header. And if we click on that, you'll see this little spinny wheel, and then we'll be right here. So one more thing that is really important that we know is how to use the theme builder in its full capacity. So we've already talked about how we have the header and footer right here. These are sort of global across the entire site. They're part of the theme. But there are other options that we have as well. So if we want to add something else to this theme, we just go up here, we click Add New, and then we can see we have our page section pop up, and we can even say who it's for, how many times it'll pop up, and what action the user took that requires the pop-up to pop up. We have our header and footer, which will be the same usually for every page of the site for all users. And then there's just a couple more that I think are worth hitting on. We have our single post. So our single post is our blog post that is going to be applied to usually every blog post that we have. That way, if we want to make a change to our blog, we don't have to go to each blog post individually. We can just do that in one place, and it will update across all of them. We also have a few other options, like when someone searches on your site with our search widget at Elementor, what will they see? And then we have our 404 page. What happens when someone goes to a page that doesn't exist? Pretty much all of these have templates that are by Elementor that are pretty good. I usually start with those and then adjust as necessary. But once we start using this, we'll be well on our way to starting to use the full capacity of Elementor. If you have any questions, comment those below. Make sure you visit those links in the description. There are great resources for web designers and really all creatives alike. Thanks for watching.